Welcome back to the weekly news roundup. Yes, we are forced now. Well, at least not all of us. Just those of us who may work for the government and have phones issued to us, we are now forced to receive updates from the White House. This is an interesting one. So there is a Donald Trump announced a White House announcement app a couple of months ago. I think it rolled out in February. And basically it provides press releases from the White House and access to Donald Trump's Twitter feed and Blue Sky account feed. And so with that, people weren't, again, some people were downloading it, not everybody was. But then this week it came out and it was auto-installed on everybody's phones who worked for the government, who had a government-issued phone. And so that really is what's going on here. The White House app auto downloads the government phones and cannot be uninstalled. That's right. So you are getting your Trump news, whether you like it or not. This is brilliant. It's kind of like, it's the way to like just trigger all those people who just like want to dress in frog suits and protest for algae at the reflecting pool. You know, the mentally ill people. I can't get Donald Trump off my phone. I got to quit my job now. It's their way. Did you guys see the amazing way that they figured out how to keep these crazy people out of national parks? Yeah, this year's annual pass has Donald Trump's picture on it. I didn't even notice that when I had to get a new pass. So I go in and you sign the back of it. So I go in and I pay my $80 and he hands it to me upside down. I got to sign the thing in the Ranger's presence. So he hands it to me. It's upside down and sign it in the presence. And then I just get my receipt. I throw the thing in my wallet and I look at it. Well, later on I get out to look at it because I realized, I didn't see what the picture was. Usually it's some landscape, or I think the year before was a pretty little lizard, just something cool and natural. I pull it out, Donald Trump's picture on it. Like, yeah, this will irritate some people. And to be fair, there's a reason for it. It's not that he's an egotistical maniac. He might be. I'm not going to dispute that. But it's because it's the 250th anniversary of the country, because it has George Washington as the first president and Donald Trump as the current president during the 250th year. All right. So all of that to say, this app is auto downloading onto phones, and there's been some questions. This guy says he deletes it, but it immediately comes back. It provides real-time updates, live events, and direct access to the presidency. So under the social section of the app, users can see posts from the White House X account, Trump's own True Social posts, and videos shared on official TikTok and Instagram accounts, among other platforms. The news section of the app includes White House press releases, briefings, fact sheets, as well as selected articles from Fox, Breitbart, Reuters, New York Post, and a few other outlets. So here is where I'm going to agree. If this is a government-issued phone, they have the right to do whatever on that government-issued phone they want. So stop complaining, because it literally, they are allowed to do that. If you don't want to have that information, then don't be using the government-issued phone. Now, if you're working certain jobs, you might have to have a government-issued phone. I would highly recommend that you have a separate phone for all your personal stuff and keep everything you're doing strictly separated. Now, the only way you'd have an argument is if you are restricted from having your own personal phone. You have to use this for everything. Well, you might have a little bit of a case there, because it does appear as though if they're just doing selected articles from Fox, Breitbart, Reuters, and New York Post, all of those are more right-leaning outlets, and you could argue that that is politically biased. Now, I think that they should probably take those articles off because they could have political bias, but to have the White House X account, Trump's True Social posts, TikTok and Instagram accounts for the official posts, and a news section which has White House press releases, briefings, and fact sheets, I am 100% fine with all of that, because that is just an informational stuff. Oh, I don't want to see Trump's True Social stuff. Deal with it. He's the president. Okay, deal with it. You know? But everything else, so I would argue, yeah, you should probably get rid of the news articles from the exclusively right-leaning sources, or at least center-right sources. I don't know where Routers. I didn't think Routers was right. I know the rest of them are. Of course, they conclude that sentence with paint a positive picture of administrative policies or attack Democrats. Sometimes it's justified, I guess. But at the bottom here, it says, let's see, at the bottom of the page, there's a section for policies for the White House mobile app includes only an email address and no details on privacy or data policies for the app itself. So this is really where the challenge comes in, is that the company that created this app is an Ohio-based, curious, our vice president's from Ohio, Ohio-based company called 45 Press, which 45th president. Things are falling into place here. This is interesting. Who has virtually no other information about them other than the fact that they're just apparently WordPress developers who have, by the way, no app experience, but somehow they landed a $1.6 million contract to build this particular app. And like most people who don't seem to know how apps work, even people who do build a lot of apps for people, most apps are embedded with a bunch of third-party libraries that most people don't even know what they are, what they're doing, and they don't really care, because as long as the app functions, that's all they really care about. And that leads to the problem that one of the various elements that they had in there is this company called ElfSite, which is a Russian-based widget company. And so that raises some serious concerns. Also, that the initial launch, which this has been since resolved, initially the app would share users' locations and IP addresses with third parties, because guess what? Again, that's what app developers do. If I call somebody in and say, hey, I want to build an app, they'll deliver me an app that has all sorts of these weird connections to weird analytics companies, all sorts of stuff that is harvesting data off of that phone, because they don't really know any better. They don't really care about the privacy implications. They just know that they're complying with the task of building the app, and the easiest way to do it is to use the pre-built libraries that have all this marketing stuff pre-built. It's kind of like when I was at the Van Lifers convention this January. I was out there, and there was a guy that has a new app that, is their new app will allow you to push the button to tell whoever's on your contact list that you're safe and alive, right? So basically, it's designed for people who live in their vehicles, probably more geared towards people who are forced to live in their vehicles. Not like me, who do that to just get away from the world or see the world. But you can go into this app and you can assign the various contacts that you want to made known, and all you have to do is come in and push the button on the app, which of course has to use your biometric data to verify that it's actually you doing it. So you got to go in, push the button on the app, verify with your biometric data, and this will send a blast to everybody on your contact list that you've checked into the app, and here's the location and stuff like this. And of course, they're pushing this out. Now, there was me and there was another guy, and there were actually three of us on the team that were kind of going over, making sure things were running smoothly. So me and the one guy were setting it up, and we're helping them get their 10 up. They're like, oh yeah, this is the app and all this kind of stuff. You do this. And the other guy's like, he's like, dude, I don't want anybody to know where I'm at. And I'm like, no, I'm a privacy advocate. I just don't do things like this. But I'd love to be able to install that app on something to see what all it's doing and say, do you know that this app is collecting all this data? Because chances are, and most people who sell these apps, they have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. Even the developers may have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. They just reference library. I need the GPS to work. Well, I can either spend 15 hours of coding stuff to get the GPS to work, or I can use this library. The problem is the library gets the GPS to work great and then sends all that data to some other company because, that's what they're doing. And so that's really what the challenge is to this app, is that some people are suggesting that there are some issues, particularly, and the biggest issue is that Russian backed widget company. It's like, is there nobody else? And that's the biggest argument, is that an app that is being pushed out on government phones for the government. Now, they say, the White House says, yes, they looked at this company and found it to be perfectly fine. So we can trust them for it, but it's a government official. What did Ronald Reagan say? Trust but verify, right? And so looking at all of these principles here, the question is this Russian backed part of the app appropriate or not? So the challenge here now that we have this whole report looking specifically at this app, and the challenge too is that this presidency is tied to Donald Trump, and people are so mentally ill regarding Donald Trump, they're dressing as frogs and protesting for algae to take over the reflecting pool, because these people are insane. If Donald Trump came out and said, air is amazing, we should all breathe it, these people would put bags over their head and rid themselves of the planet. Okay. So looking at all this, it's really hard to find objective stuff. And most of these people are just, the White House is evil, Donald Trump is evil, blah, 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 evil, evil, evil. They did actually have one objective person at the bottom who says, ultimately, he says, yeah, the app seems to be fine. The only thing I'd question is this particular company. They should have found somebody else to provide something else that has a U.S.-backed company instead of a Russian-backed company. So this is actually what that statement from that guy. I still think an app with this kind of scrutiny is absolutely would bear a high level of rigor, but it's probably most likely explanation versus something nefarious. So in other words, yeah, these people just don't know what they're doing. It's not that they're being bad. It's that, that's the case. Now, the app did point to the privacy policy on the White House, which actually was not horrible. Of all the privacy policies, maybe I just have a sour taste in my mouth from LastPass's privacy policy last year. But this is the official whitehouse.gov privacy policy. You do not have to provide White House with any personal information or create a user account to access information on whitehouse.gov. And they say this same privacy policy applies to the app, which is true. You do not have to give any information to use the app. The only time you would is if you wanted to send a text message directly to the president, which case you have to provide for them either a phone number or an email to hear back. So with that, some of the services we may need some information, such as your name, address, telephone number, email address, and other contact or identifying information about yourself that you choose to provide or authorize us. This is literally just, we're contacting you for something. Obviously, if you don't want to have your information, put it in one of them snail mail envelopes. Don't put a return address and send it to them. Of course, it's going to get extra scrutiny if they don't have return address on something that goes to the White House. But nevertheless, if you want anonymity, that's how you do it. And then don't forget, you drop it off in a post office box that's in a different state from yours. Leave your phone at home when you drive to a different state. Although there was actually a criminal case recently. It was tied to, there was this transgender murder cult. It was weird. The Zizians, I think they were. They actually, and then the murder happened in Pennsylvania. The people lived in Massachusetts, I think. Part of the evidence of the crime is that they didn't move their phone for the entire time it took them to drive to Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and back. Okay. So, yes, in this crazy surveillance-based world, the act of not using your phone is now evidence against you. That is how dystopian we got. A fascinating case, by the way. If you haven't seen it, look them up. It's the Zizian murder cult. They just were able to charge somebody with the murder of their parents from Pennsylvania. So of course there's email subscriptions. If you are, using your email, to get on the newsletter list, obviously they collect that. The only third party they say they have a couple here. Pretty much the only third party that they reference is Google, which, with the analytics, and they actually use the IP masking feature in Google Analytics to make sure that IP addresses are not actually collected by the White House. So that's actually, for as far as privacy policies go, it's actually not too bad. The app itself, this is on the Google Play Store. The app itself, they've provided information about how this app collects data. So app activities, so you can see the app interactions. Then you can see personal user IDs. So app functionality and analytics, that would be objects to suspicion. And then app functionality analytics, device or other IDs. That is questionable. Why do you need to do that? But it's very possible they just can't build an app without that type of data built in. I just don't know for sure. And so data collected, of course, activity, email address, user IDs, and phone numbers. Again, this is only if you're doing you'll see that the email address and the phone number are both optional. That is only if you want to send a message to the president. And user IDs, unfortunately, every app does this type of stuff. So keep apps off of your device. Now, of course, if it's a government issued phone, as we said, hey, that's up to the government. That's their phone. That's their choice. Deal with it. Don't like it? Get a new job. They say your data is encrypted, and they do say the data cannot be deleted. Now, this is for a reason. This has to do with the, it's actually referenced in here. The reason it cannot specifically be deleted is because to comply with the Presidential Records Act, they may archive information that users submit or publish when engaging the White House. Of course, through this process, any personal information is generally redacted, but that's actually why you can't delete information, is because of the Presidential Archives Act, which actually prevents them from doing that. So there you have it. The White House is pushing phone apps on people, and yeah, what are you going to do? Let me know your thoughts about all that in the comments down below.